Have you ever wondered why it seems so difficult to find peace amidst chaos or wisdom in daily decisions? Society pushes us to move faster, achieve more, and seek recognition at any cost. But Jesus showed us a completely different and revolutionary path. It's intriguing, isn't it? While the world tells us to be strong by accumulating possessions, he taught that true strength lies in simplicity, love, and compassion. Doesn't that feel a bit counterintuitive? Imagine what it would be like to live with more purpose, patience, and clarity, turning obstacles into opportunities and chaos into serenity. Does it seem impossible? Perhaps, until now. The teachings of Jesus are not just ancient lessons. They are practical and powerful tools that can radically change your life. What's most impressive is that despite their depth, they are simple enough for anyone to apply, if they are willing. You're about to uncover something that can be a game changer. Through thought-provoking stories, challenging reflections, and lessons filled with divine wisdom, you'll find answers to questions you didn't even know you had. Each teaching carries an invitation to view life differently, more fully and aligned with God's purpose. But be warned, these teachings are not for those who merely seek information. They are for those ready for transformation. So if you feel like something is missing or you're ready to take your understanding to the next level, you're in the right place. Get ready to dive into content that will not only challenge your mind, but also touch your heart. Shall we begin? Simplicity as the key to peace. Modern life bombards us with countless demands, voices, and expectations, making it easy to lose focus on what truly matters. Jesus, in his eternal wisdom, teaches us that simplicity is the foundation of a peaceful life. Imagine a jar filled with rocks, sand, and water. If you try to put everything in at once, the jar overflows. But when you start with the big rocks, the essentials, everything else fits into place. The same applies to our lives. Focusing on love, forgiveness, and wisdom brings clarity, enabling us to set aside distractions that steal our joy. Simplicity is found in small choices, saying no to things that don't add value, embracing a moment of daily silence, or cherishing small gestures that reflect God's love. Remember the widow who gave only 2 coins at the temple. Her offering seemed insignificant to others, but was great in God's eyes because it was given in faith. Why not start practicing this today? Donate time, energy, or wise words to someone in need. It's not about the size of what you do, but the intention of your heart. Jesus showed us that living simply doesn't mean living in lack, but in purpose. He washed his disciples' feet, an act no important leader would have done at the time. In humble service, we find the true meaning of mercy and salvation. Perhaps it's time to reassess our priorities. Are we seeking the essential or getting lost in the superficial? Ask yourself, does this reflect the love Christ taught? As we reflect on this lesson of simplicity, we see that it unlocks something even deeper. Silence and introspection, for instance, are tools that help us hear God amidst the world's noise. But this is only the beginning, as silence reveals a transformative power that few have explored. The value of small things. How often do we believe that only grand gestures, heroic acts, or extraordinary feats truly matter? Yet Jesus teaches us that true value lies in the small things. Think of the widow who offered 2 coins at the temple. At first glance, her offering seemed insignificant, but Jesus highlighted that she gave everything she had, while others gave out of their abundance without the same devotion. Love, wisdom, and forgiveness are seeds we plant daily through small acts, and these seeds, though small, can bear eternal fruit. Practical examples of this truth are endless. A smile for someone having a tough day, a sincere compliment, or even holding the door open for someone. These are gestures of compassion and mercy. Often, we're so focused on achieving great things that we forget the lasting impact of a kind word or a simple thank you. Why not send a message of gratitude today to someone who has made a difference in your life? Small acts, when done with love, can ignite a flame that grows into something immense. Jesus knew this better than anyone. He transformed simple situations into profound lessons, breaking bread with his disciples, washing feet, and healing with words and touch, all acts rooted in humility. Living like him challenges us to view small things differently, recognizing in them opportunities to spread light. Perhaps what the world needs isn't a grand spectacle, but a simple gesture from you today. Understanding the beauty of small things brings us to a deeper reflection. Silence. Just as small acts hold power, silence can transform the soul. But do we know how to use this tool to connect with what truly silence as a tool of power? Silence holds a mysterious, almost divine power that we often underestimate amidst the chaos of daily life. Jesus, in his wisdom, sought moments of isolation to connect with the Father, showing us that silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of God. How often do we miss out on hearing because we are too busy talking or distracted? The world's noise distances us from the wisdom and peace found in quietness. It is in silence that God's love and mercy reveal themselves most clearly, filling spaces words cannot reach. Set aside a moment in your day to experience this transformative connection. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be in the quiet of your room, a solitary walk, or the brief moment before sleep. Start by putting your phone down, closing your eyes, breathing deeply, and listening to your own heart. Have you noticed how silence reveals thoughts and feelings you may have been avoiding? It is in this space that God speaks, offering discernment and wisdom for seemingly impossible decisions. Jesus exemplified this before crucial moments, such as in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he prayed in silence, seeking strength to face the cross. Like him, we can use silence as a tool of power, not to escape the world, but to prepare to face it with faith. Why not start today? Take small intervals of silence during your day and notice how your mind clears and your spirit renews. It's a simple practice with profound impact, transforming both external chaos and internal turmoil. As we learn to value silence, we see that it prepares us for something greater, compassion. By silencing our own voices, we can better hear the cries of others. But how can we turn that listening into concrete action, as Jesus did? The importance of compassion. Compassion is one of the most beautiful reflections of God's love in our lives. Jesus showed us, with every step and word, that true wisdom lies in seeing others suffering and acting to alleviate it. Think of the parable of the Good Samaritan, where a man ignored by many was helped by an unlikely hero. This story is not just about kindness, but a call to action. Compassion cannot be passive. It must move us. By reaching out to others, we not only heal external wounds, but also nourish our own souls with mercy and salvation. Exercising compassion in daily life is simpler than it seems. Look for small needs around you. A co-worker overwhelmed with tasks, a neighbor who rarely receives visitors, or even a stranger lost in thought. Sometimes, an act of compassion is as simple as listening without judgment or offering a word of encouragement. Compassion doesn't require grand acts, but a willing heart. Try practicing it and notice how it transforms not only others' lives, but also your own. Jesus lived compassion in its purest and most radical form. He touched lepers, conversed with outcasts, and forgave even those who crucified him. This challenges us to abandon prejudice and love unconditionally, even when it's uncomfortable or requires sacrifice. Reflect on the barriers you place between your compassion and the world. They can be broken, but it takes courage and a genuine commitment to Christ's teachings. As we practice compassion, we find it not only transforms others, but also teaches us to live with purpose. Life takes on new meaning when our actions align with eternal values, as Jesus so deeply demonstrated. Living with purpose. Living without purpose is like navigating without a compass. you easily get lost amidst the waves of daily life. Jesus, throughout his journey, never strayed from his purpose. He came into the world with a clear mission and lived every moment aligned with it. The secret to living with purpose lies in understanding that our existence holds meaning, even when circumstances seem confusing or difficult. Love, wisdom, and salvation are pillars that help us focus on what truly matters, eliminating distractions and giving meaning to our actions. Having a purpose is more than setting goals. It's aligning your heart with eternal values. Imagine someone dedicating their life to teaching underprivileged children or caring for forgotten elderly people. Such a life is not only productive but deeply meaningful. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what is my mission? Perhaps it lies in caring for your family, using your talents to bless others, or simply choosing to be a light in the darkness. Living with purpose requires reflection but also action. Start by writing down your priorities and eliminating what doesn't add value. Jesus showed that living with purpose also means being ready to face challenges. He endured rejection, pain, and even the cross, but he never deviated from the path God laid out for him. This example teaches us that purpose isn't about ease, but persistence. When faced with obstacles, remember that every difficult moment is an opportunity to grow and strengthen your faith. Ask yourself, is this pulling me away from my purpose or shaping me to fulfill it better? As we live with purpose, we realize that listening is an essential skill for our journey. After all, before acting, we need to listen, and listen well. But how does Jesus teach us to turn listening into a bridge for reconciliation? Listening before acting. Listening is an art that few master, yet Jesus practiced it perfectly. He knew that listening before acting was essential to building bridges and transforming conflicts into opportunities for reconciliation. Think of the story of the adulterous woman. While the religious leaders shouted for her condemnation, Jesus listened, pondered, and responded with wisdom, disarming the crowd. This teaches us that when we listen attentively, we create space for love, forgiveness, and wisdom to flow effectively, avoiding hasty reactions that can cause more harm. Practicing active listening is an act of compassion and humility. When we listen without interruptions, we show others that we value them and are willing to understand, not just respond. In daily life, this can be as simple as genuinely paying attention during a conversation or sincerely asking, "How are you really feeling?" Additionally, listening doesn't mean agreeing with everything, but respecting others' perspectives. Why not, in your next conversation, avoid preparing your reply mentally and focus entirely on what's being said? Small changes like this strengthen relationships and prevent unnecessary conflicts. Jesus also showed us that listening opens doors to divine wisdom. He reserved moments of silence to hear God's voice before making significant decisions. Like him, we can seek discernment through prayer and reflection. By listening not just to others but also to God, we become better equipped to act with purpose. You can practice this by setting aside a few minutes daily for introspection, asking, "What does God want to teach me today?" Often the answer lies in the silence, waiting to be discovered. When we learn to listen before acting, we understand that answers don't always come immediately. Sometimes patience is required to grasp the next step, just as Jesus taught us during moments of waiting. Rejection as a lesson. Rejection, though painful, can be a great teacher. Jesus faced rejection in his life and ministry in ways few can imagine. He was despised by those who should have recognized him, rejected in his hometown, and even betrayed by his disciples. Yet each episode of rejection reaffirmed his purpose and demonstrated that even pain can be used for good. When we are rejected, we have a choice. Let it paralyze us or use it as fuel to grow in love, wisdom, and compassion. In practical terms, dealing with rejection means learning to redirect our expectations and redefine our vision of success. For example, if a work project isn't well received or a friendship ends abruptly, instead of sinking into bitterness, ask, "What can I learn from this?" Often, rejection signals a need to adjust our focus or prepare for something greater. Imagine Jesus being rejected in the synagogue, only to later preach to multitudes who were truly ready to listen. His rejection didn't define him, but propelled him to fulfill his mission. This lesson also involves forgiveness, both for those who rejected us and for ourselves. Resentment can easily become an emotional prison, but by extending forgiveness, we find freedom. Jesus demonstrated this supremely on the cross, forgiving those who crucified him. He teaches us that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. When facing rejection, ask yourself, how can I use this to become a better and more merciful person? As we learn to turn rejection into an opportunity for growth, we realize that timing is also essential. Just as Jesus waited for the right moment to act, there is a time for everything, and patience becomes an indispensable virtue. Patience in times of waiting. Patience is a virtue that, while difficult to cultivate, is essential to the journey of faith. Jesus taught us this repeatedly, waiting for the right moment to act, even when the pressure around him was immense. Consider the story of Lazarus. Jesus didn't rush upon hearing of his illness, but waited, demonstrating that God's timing is perfect. Often, our anxiety makes us want everything immediately, but patience helps us trust in divine wisdom, allowing love and salvation to manifest at the right time. In practice, cultivating patience can start with small daily actions. For instance, when facing long lines, instead of complaining, use the time to pray or reflect on the blessings you've received. When a plan doesn't unfold as expected, ask, "What can I learn while I wait?" Waiting can be fertile ground for spiritual growth, where wisdom blossoms. Try keeping a gratitude journal or setting aside moments each day to meditate, remembering that every period of waiting has a hidden purpose. Jesus demonstrated that patience isn't passivity, but an active act of faith. He knew when to wait and when to act, fully trusting in God's plan. This balance is a challenge for all of us, especially in a culture that values speed and immediate results. So why not pause and reflect on something you're waiting for? Perhaps it's a dream, an answer, or even a miracle. Remember that great things often take time, and God is at work even when we can't see it. As we learn to wait, we realize that emotions must be managed wisely. For without proper care, impatience can lead to impulsive decisions that veer us off course. Beware of extreme emotions. Emotions are gifts from God, but when poorly managed, they can divert us from His purpose for us. Jesus showed us that it's possible to feel deeply without losing control. Remember when He drove out the merchants from the temple? It was an expression of justice, not a loss of control. Yet, on many occasions, He responded to anger and disdain with calm and wisdom, teaching that mastering emotions is a path to love, forgiveness, and wisdom. How are we managing our emotions today? Managing emotions is a daily practice that starts with self-awareness. When you feel anger, frustration, or anxiety, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, does this response reflect Christ's love? Practical examples help in this process. In a moment of irritation while driving, instead of reacting impatiently, try praying for the drivers around you. In a disagreement, practice active listening before responding. Transforming extreme emotions into acts of mercy requires effort, but the results are profound. Jesus also taught us not to ignore emotions, but to use them constructively. He wept at Lazarus' death, lamented over Jerusalem, and felt anguish in Gethsemane. In each situation, He channeled His emotions into actions aligned with His divine purpose. This shows us that feeling is not the problem, but finding balance is essential. If you're struggling with intense emotions, Take time to talk to God, asking for wisdom to handle each situation. Small steps like these build a solid foundation to overcome emotional challenges. As we learn to manage our emotions, we understand that true power lies not in imposing ourselves, but in serving with humility. After all, Jesus washed his disciples' feet, showing that real greatness is born from letting go of power and vanity. Letting go of power and vanity. True greatness is not about accumulating power or seeking recognition, but leading by example and serving with humility. Jesus demonstrated this profoundly by washing his disciples' feet, an act reserved for servants. As the King of Kings, he humbled himself to teach that love and mercy matter more than any position or status. Often, we seek validation through achievements or praise, but does this truly draw us closer to God? What he values is a humble heart willing to serve. In daily life, we can apply this principle in many ways. Helping a colleague without expecting anything in return, dedicating time to family, or volunteering for causes that promote goodness are examples. Small gestures like attentively listening to someone or offering help to those in need reflect the relinquishment of power. Remember, leading by example doesn't mean controlling, but inspiring. If you hold a leadership position, ask yourself, am I using my influence to serve or to be served? True impact comes from humility and love. Jesus also teaches us that power and vanity are subtle traps that can pull us away from our mission. He rejected Satan's temptations, which offered earthly power and glory, to remain faithful to God's plan. This challenges us to reassess our priorities. Are we seeking human approval or living to please God? Humility is not weakness but strength, a strength that frees us and connects us with eternal values. What can you let go of today to live more aligned with Christ's purpose? As we embrace humility, we see that Jesus' teachings are not just stories, but a daily invitation to transformation. By following them, we open the way to explore the greatest lessons of his life, renewing our own and finding a wisdom that few ever reach. Now that you've explored the greatest teachings of Jesus, the question remains, what will you do with this knowledge? Transformation doesn't happen just by hearing, but by applying. Each lesson is an invitation to change your life, overcome limitations, and live with greater love, wisdom, and purpose. Are you willing to let go of pride, fear, or excuses to start taking action? Perhaps the answer lies in a simple gesture like forgiving someone, setting aside time for silence, or helping a stranger. Stop and reflect. What's holding you back from taking the next step? Jesus showed us that the deepest changes begin from the inside out, and now it's your turn to put this into practice. Why not choose one of these lessons to live out intensely today? Remember, it doesn't matter where you are. What matters is where you're determined to go. Are you ready to live according to the values he taught? And before you go, one last suggestion. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. It's not just a click. It's an opportunity to keep learning, growing, and connecting with wisdom that can change your life. Don't miss the upcoming content that will bring even more insights and answers to your spiritual journey. Now the decision is in your hands. What steps will you take today to live the transformation you desire?